Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another analysis video. On the agenda tonight, we have Dokken. More specifically, I'm going to be looking at Reb Beach, who's playing guitar here. Of course, originally it's George Lynch, that was the Dokken guitarist, but this is from 1999, and those of you in the know will know that Reb played guitar for the band Winger. And he's also done a stint in Whitesnake as well. He gets around a little bit because he's very good. He's actually one of those guitarists that I think is really underrated, and I'm a big fan of his. I've been to see Winger lots of times live, so let's have a little look at Dokken and Reb. I've kind of fast forwarded it here to just to the beginning of his solo, so he's doing a few kind of little dive bombs and whammy bar stuff here, so let's get into it and see what happens. And just a quick note on how Reb likes his guitars. He has the bridge with a bit of a cutaway so that not only can he do dive bombs on the Floyd Rose bridge, but he can also make the pitch ascend. So he can kind of pull away from the guitar with the whammy bar, and that's what he's doing here in order to get those kind of screeching sounds. He'll hit a harmonic and then pull up on the whammy bar, and then the bridge goes into the little cutaway that's been kind of made exactly for that technique, and that's how he gets kind of these crazy sounds. And he likes to do this quite a lot during solos and at the end of solos, and it gives a really unique sound. And then he's getting into his kind of signature technique here, where Reb doesn't actually use his little finger on his left hand. He uses first, second, and third, and he taps in with his second finger on his right hand, and he gets a really nice legato sound to his runs, and he comes up with some really melodic stuff as well, and he plays quite a lot of fast stuff. But what I love about this sound is that it's so smooth, the way that he transitions from note to note, using this technique that pretty much he started doing first. And yeah, it's kind of a really impressive sound that he gets, to the point that when I first heard it, I thought, it sounds so good and so smooth that I want to learn it myself. And so I spent many an hour kind of getting the technique down as well. Of course, Reb has got slightly larger hands than me, so I do use my little finger on runs of this kind of nature. But yeah, it's a really unique sound. And like I said at the beginning of the video, he's one of these guitarists that fall under the kind of underrated category, and he kind of flew underneath the radar in the 80s and early 90s as well. People in the know that he's a top technical guitarist, but just for kind of introducing this technique is really cool. It's kind of taking what Van Halen brought to the table and just adapting it ever so slightly to get his own kind of sound. But yeah, I really like the sound of Reb's tapping. Another thing that I love about Reb is that live, he pushes it to the limit, and he's kind of, I always say about guitarists, kind of going to the edge. And he's one of those players that, I don't know how, but the closer to the edge he gets, the better he gets. And everything is always in key and spot on, and it's got really great feel. And he'll always end with a crescendo or a high note. His solos are always structured. Some players just play with no real end goal. I mentioned this with Joe Satriani video that I did as well, where it's all pre-planned and he takes you on a journey, and I feel like Reb does that as well. He's kind of super technical. He can also vibrato really well, in this he does some great bends with some great wide vibrato, and he mixes it up as well, and all the top players can do that. So yeah, big fan of Reb, and there's so much technique to his playing that it's really worth a listen. If you haven't heard of him or you haven't kind of checked him out, then I suggest it's definitely worth checking out Reb just for his kind of techniques. And there's great instructional stuff that he does as well on the internet, just explaining exactly how he plays and how to get the sound that he gets when he plays. But let's watch a little bit more. And then it's heavy riff, head banging time. And yeah, it's a really cool solo. He goes into a little bit of tapping. If you've seen him live, you'll recognize some of the lines from where he does his standalone show-off piece with Winger. The other thing about Reb is that he's actually got a really good voice. In the Winger stuff, he does some really great harmony lines live, and there's some real range to his voice as well. He can get right up there with his voice. So again, not only an underrated guitarist, but an underrated singer. But what I love about Reb is that he just keeps on going. He's not bothered about kind of, I must be seen as an amazing player. There are so many great players who are underrated, who just get on with it and don't complain and haven't got a problem with it. And it's just reminded me of the Prince video that I did the other night, where Prince was trying to prove a point to Rolling Stone magazine about not being in the top 100 guitarist, and that list was an absolute joke anyway, looking at who was rated where. But Prince especially, he was kind of so talented, such a great artist, that why be bothered what some guy sitting in an office thinks of, what his top 100 guitarists? Because I think he was a bit misinformed anyway. But yeah, Reb is one of those guys. He just gets on with it, and there's so many guitarists like that are so good, but they're so modest as well. And they're not shouting from the rooftops trying to say, everyone look at me. They just quietly get on with their gigs and get on with their business and just melt faces, and are amazingly good and technically good and got great feel. And it's one of those things that when you go to a gig and you see a guitarist like this in the flesh, and you think, wow, really, really top player. And I've been there, I've been feet away from Reb when he's playing, and everything is so spot on. It's really impressive. And his vocals, like I said, it's a bit of a unique one as well, because of course George Lynch being with Dokken, and now Reb kind of putting his own flavour on it as well. Reb's never going to copy what George Lynch does, because they're two players with their totally different styles. But yeah, Reb certainly adds something cool, a cool edge to this performance. But thank you for suggesting this video for me to take a look at. Keep those suggestions coming in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!